Hey everybody, and welcome to this brief micro lecture on what a marketing plan is. This is not going to be some comprehensive outline that you would need to follow with some process charts and all that other stuff, because marketing plans cover some basic things, and that's what I'm going to talk about here. But I can also tell you from a practical standpoint that you go from one organization to another, and how they go about doing marketing plans and what's important to them and what needs to be emphasized and what needs to not even be included, vary tremendously from one to the next. So to say there is one is quite a misnomer. It really doesn't make sense. But we're going to cover the basics of it so we can understand why we do these and what's the purpose and what do you hope to accomplish. So the purpose of any plan really is it basically provides you a path to get to your destination. So you can picture trying to get from Boston to Seattle back before the days of interstate highways and cars and stuff like that. It took a lot of planning. That was a long trip, and you probably had to use multiple modes of transportation, and without a plan, you may not get very far. So you really have to start with, okay, where am I trying to go, and then decide how I'm going to try to get there. There's no shortage of quotes on plans. I was like this, but failing to plan is planning to fail. There's a lot of them. Some of them I kind of like. Some of them are kind of silly. I think the point of it is trying to do things without a plan really, really increases the chance of failure, because it's really hard to understand exactly what you're trying to do. So how do you know if you're doing it right or not? And this is my favorite one of all time. People plan, God laughs. So that's another way of saying you may have the best plan in the world, but it isn't likely to go that way. Plans are, by very definition, trying to define what the future is going to be and how you're going to act as you go, proceed through through the future. So, and we all know that things happen along the way. So, the truth is the hallmark of a really good manager of marketing or anything else is the person who has a plan, but then has enough sense to know that they're probably going to be wrong and knows how to course correct or change the plan based on the information they get as they go along. This is especially new with brand new things that you're doing. So, and this is the axiom you want to fall back on. Things are going to happen. So the general framework of a marketing plan includes a strategic element to it. We're going to talk about strategy a bit as we go along further in class, but strategy, you really need to understand with a solid understanding what the strategy of the organization is, identifying what that organization's mission and strategy are just really, really important to be able to articulate so that the plan is anchored into something within the organization. So when you define the overall strategy of the organization, you want to be able to do that, have that, if not already known, you need to define it. And I can tell you from somebody who's put together marketing plans or new introduction plans or new market plans or, new, just all kinds of different types of plans for new things. It's really important to understand is how does that fit within the overall strategy of the organization. You want to clearly state that. So implied in that strategy, growth strategy for the organization is what level of risk tolerance is there, and what, as opposed to, in many ways, the desire for aggressive growth. So if you have a very aggressive view towards growing your organization, you have to, by definition, have a much higher risk tolerance. You can't have it all. You're going to do something right. So, and you want to describe the fit of the marketing plan identified to the overall growth strategy of the organization. Again, if the company is really looking to increase sales at a rapid rate, expand market share, any number of aggressive types of actions, you have to say exactly how you're contributing to that with the plan that you're putting together. And then they also have something called what I would call a tactical element. Is that it's like, okay, now we got to talk about specifically how are we going to pull this off. You're by the project you're going to work on is by and large looking at the tactical element of it, but it starts with having to have an understanding of what the strategic elements are that go into it as well. So in doing that, you need to determine the STP. If you remember our marketing framework, it says we need to define what the market demographics are. We want to define the market's psychographics. You're going to learn about those things as we go along. And you need to be able to clearly identify geographic concentrations, any number of different things that help you actually decide how you're going to actually target the product or services that you're actually that you're coming up with. And is a defined target market a fit within the organization's strategy and strengths? That's a fancy way of saying is like, if it doesn't feel like the same type of customer, maybe that's by design, but it's got to feel similar enough. And for most organizations to want to take on it and go into a new market altogether. Okay. So then we would continue into the 4 Ps of marketing, which we're going to learn about. If you took a basic marketing class, you no doubt learned about, at least to some degree. And the 4 Ps are product, price, place, and promotion. Place being the most awkward of the 4 Ps. It's like, what is that? Place, so, but it's a P, so you can have the 4 Ps if you called it distribution strategy or something, so, but the product is basically what it is you are going to offer to the customer, and you break that down into terms that the customer cares about. Okay. And then pricing. So we're going to talk about some real basic pricing strategies for the purpose of doing our plan. These can be very sophisticated, but the strategies that we utilize and employ are again reflective of what our target market is looking for. Placing is basically a distribution strategy, is how does the product ultimately end up in the consumer's hands. So we have to think about a distribution strategy, and that's, we can think about things like multi-channel strategies. Are we going to sell directly to the consumer? Are we going to sell indirectly through retailers or distributors, those types of things? So those are all the types of decisions that go into what the distribution strategy is. And that boils down to a pretty simple thing. It's like, where does the target market most likely shop for the products that you're offering? You have to meet them where they are. That's a term I've used millions of times. It's like, they say, well, we were going to do it this way. It's like, is that where the consumer, your target is? And if the answer is, well, gee, we don't know, it's like, well, then it doesn't matter. Whatever you're deciding has absolutely no meaning. You have to understand where they are and meet them where they are. Okay. And the promotion side of it is basically how do we message or talk to people about what our product's about, and where we're going to talk to them about that. All those types of things go into what we call promotion. You're also going to have a channel strategy there, even though it's not the same thing as what we just talked about with place. But a channel strategy is like, where do they get their information? Where do they do what they do? That's going to be really important. Again, you're going to meet your target market where they are. That's really important to be able to do that. Okay. Now, we're not going to do this, but most, marketing plans have some kind of a forecast attached to them, and it's very financially based and things like that. So there's lots of ways of going about doing that, and that's outside the realm of this class. I'm happy to talk to anybody more about it individually if they'd like to know, but there's lots of things that get taken into account. But forecasting is a necessary and important part of a marketing plan. Okay. And then you can have to decide how you're going to determine how you're going to know if it's working or not. You're going to make sure you understand what you're going to measure and how. You're going to do all this before starting, and don't ever let anybody convince you into launching a plan without having these feedback loops in place. because then all you can do is do things wrong from that point forward. So I make sure those things are in place before I do it, because they are never more important than before you start. Okay. So some of the trends happening in marketing planning. Speed has never been more important. Every aspect of new product introduction has had significant time eliminated from it. We're going to talk about this more as we go along in class, but it's absolutely amazing. Research, how research is done. That used to be a long process, a very arduous process. Test marketing, all kinds of different things that went into that. Take years, literally, to bring a product to the marketplace through all the testing that was being done. And today, that is a small fraction of the amount of time that it takes to really understand if you understand who the market is well. Going back to the whole concept of big data and AI, and that's going to continue to come down. So time to market is a performance measure that a lot of companies are striving to reduce. They want to make sure that from the time the idea or the concept comes about to the time it gets rolled out into the marketplace is a very small period of time compared to what it used to be, and it is. So you guys are going to read a pretty interesting article about that this week. In Agile marketing, which the other part of it is basically says that Agile in the marketing context uses data and analytics to continuously source promising opportunities or solutions to problems in real time, deploying tests quickly, evaluating the results, and rapidly iterating. This is how it's done today. Trust me. And people that aren't doing it will be doing it. That's what I can tell you. So Agile marketing is a very important concept you need to bring away. And it's essentially the reasons why is that it aligns with leadership and sets team expectations, and it analyzes the data to identify the opportunities, it designs and prioritizes the tests that you're going to do, actually runs those tests, it iterates the idea, like reshapes it based on the results that you have, and it's scalable across an entire organization. So you might think it's like, well, that sounds pretty great. That is the kind of the norm that people are working towards these days. And again, enabled by and large by the amounts of data that we have, plus machine-based learning and artificial intelligence are really aiding us in doing this very, very well. So in the end, I'll give you one of my maxims. Marketing is changing. And that's for you an outstanding opportunity to be at the front of that change. Learn some of these new concepts that are coming along, not the old tried and true ones, but these newer ones that are coming along, because they are what are actually being done out there in the world. And so you embrace those and bring them to your prospective employers, and they will value you and appreciate you for it. I can guarantee it. Okay, so. That was a real brief overview, as I promised. So if you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. And I'm happy to discuss any one of these things with you as it relates to marketing plans. Again, you have the advantage of having an instructor here who's done this many, many, many times. I've seen it evolve considerably over the years. So it's again, brave new world. It's very exciting. So embrace that. Okay, well, let me know if you have any questions about it, and best of luck.